We've seen the scenes where children are left outside and traumatized by an emergency scene at their home. The house might be on fire. There might be a domestic tragedy. There's a new effort designed to give new resources to Livonia Police and Fire to give some comfort to these children. Hello, this is Cityscape, a regular vodcast featuring people, places, and ideas that impact Livonia. I'm Dan West with the Livonia Chamber of Commerce. A group of local businesses and local police and fire unions have combined to form the Livonia First Responder Foundation. Tax-deductible contributions provide funds to this new 501c3 charity designed to provide immediate support to families impacted by an emergency with a stuffed animal or a blanket for a child or a meal in a hotel room for a family. The foundation was launched this year, and its first fundraiser is a raffle for this brand new Yamaha V-Star 950 motorcycle. Raffle tickets are $50 each, and only up to 500 will be sold. All proceeds from the raffle will go to the new foundation. The winning ticket will be drawn on Monday, July 5th. We are joined today by Livonia Fire Chief Dave Heavener, Livonia Business Manufacturing Representative Chuck Dardis, and then Livonia Police Chief Curtis Cade. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Chief Heavener, let's start with you. Describe what it's like for your firefighters when they're encountering somebody at a house fire and they're dealing with a stunned family. What is that moment like, and what do you folks try to do in those moments?
Sure, Dan, thanks. Tragedies of all kinds happen at truly ill-prepared times, and they're unplanned events. So when our crews are working in an emergency scene, they're encountering people at a true time of loss and grief. These families truly are in a point in their life that they didn't expect to be. Most people don't have a defined plan laid out for what to do next when they encounter such an emergency. So our crews, not only do they have to remedy the situation that they're dealing with, but they also have to tend to their emotional needs as well. A lot of these families that we will deal with have truly lost everything, and they're devastated. So our crews attempt to salvage any type of keepsake that they can from, say, a house fire. They try to comfort the family and assure them that they're not going to be left alone or forgotten about. But the truth is once the event ends and our crews pack up and go back to the station to get ready for the next run, these families, their grief and their loss is going to continue for a period of time yet to come. And the crews have very limited resources in many occurrences to provide them long-lasting support. We do try to make sure that they're comforted. We try to find them shelter. We try to find them clothing when necessary, if possible. And efforts through a foundation like this can certainly help elongate that for a family's needs into a much longer lasting time frame.
Chief Cade, with the resources that this foundation would produce, how would those resources help your department and your officers supporting a family in such an emergency situation?
Well, thanks, Dan. Much like what Chief Heavener alluded to, is we find ourselves, our officers, our firefighters find themselves in a family's life at the worst possible moment. For whether it's a fire scene, as Chief Heavener mentioned, or for us, frequently it's a domestic abuse situation in some way, and sometimes it's elder abuse. There's a lot of different factors that our officers find themselves in the middle of and trying to negotiate through. And when I say negotiate through, it's really taking care of the law enforcement end of things, and then the next step, taking care of, as much as you can, the resources, the family, the individual that is, quite frankly, are individuals that are victims to whatever the situation was. Over time, we have found ourselves dealing with a mother and her children, and there was a news story on this now a year or so ago, where she was sleeping in her car with her children, and the officers pooled their money and got a hotel room for the lady and her children for a period of time. The potential of this foundation and giving additional resources to our officers, and really it's back to the community and helping people navigate, get through whatever crisis that they're experiencing. And today, and more than ever, we have seen an uptick in that and a demand for that. And the generosity of this community and the support of this foundation will go a long ways in an effort for us to provide some assistance to folks that are in need during a terrible time in their life.
Chuck, you were instrumental in starting the effort to get this foundation going. Why, as an executive of a manufacturing company and as a community supporter, was this effort so important to you?
Thanks, Dan. Uh, Representing the business community, we really admire what the police, fire, EMS do. Um, uh, where we work, we know that we're most likely going to come home every day. We know that that's not necessarily the case for these professionals, men and women, and we think it's important that they see the support of the community that we're representing in this. I don't just speak for myself; I speak for many thousands of people that feel this way. Having been fortunate enough to work directly with the police department and fire department, I know how dedicated they are, and I also know that there's times where Chief Hevner and Chief Cade have mentioned that once their job is done, their job is not done. I mean, their parents, their family members, and they feel for these families and what they've just gone through. And with this foundation, what our hope is, it's going to provide resources for them to be able to deploy beyond when their job is done. Because it seems to me, just having talked to them, they don't think their job's ever done when it comes to serving our community. And I think it's showing appreciation to them for what we know that they do, what we know that they do for us 24/7 a day. When we're home sleeping, they're out there thinking, taking care of us, police, fire, and EMS. So that's where it all came from, Dan.
Chief Hevner, how else could the resources that you gather from this foundation be used for not only the work that the first responders in this community use, but what the departments themselves could use with it?
Sure, that's a great question, Dan, and I appreciate that question. I think one of the things that can really come from this foundation is direct support for our firefighters and police officers. I think it's important for everybody to remember that these police officers and firefighters, they carry their own stress and their own grief on a daily living cycle, just like anybody else does in any environment. But in addition to that, what each of these men and women do is they encounter other people at their most tragic time and their most grief-stricken time in their lives. So then they add on top of their own stress a little piece of everybody else's stress too. And that builds on individuals and that weighs on them. So there is an opportunity that is growing throughout our communities in the police and fire service that additional support in a mental health type setting is very necessary. And there's availability there to improve on opportunities that currently exist, which they certainly do, and we partake in those opportunities, but that can be bolstered. So as our employees face these tragedies of the community, they too have to deal with that on a personal level. So providing additional support in the mental health setting, I think, is super important. That we focus on being able to have things available to help those that spend their life helping others. And funds through this foundation can really help make a difference in a lot of these people's lives, and not just the officers or firefighters themselves, but their families as well. Because a lot of times they bring those issues home from work and they don't just leave it at the door, and then it affects deeper components of their family life, whether it be spousal issues or children issues. And again, the depth of what we can provide is limitless. Having additional funds and resources to help make it more readily available is super important.
Chief Cade, how has this effort to start the foundation for the first responders been received so far, and how can people buy tickets for the motorcycle raffle?
Well, I've made the announcement to my staff over the last month or so since partnering with Mr. Dardis and the team for the creation of the foundation and the raffle of the motorcycle, and there's a lot of excitement. And we're really fortunate overall that Livonia Police Department enjoys great support from this community, and there's so many ways to demonstrate it. One of them is this foundation that's created for police and fire, but through the private sector. So there's a lot of excitement in this building. They certainly appreciate the generosity and the efforts that all have put forward to the foundation and now for this raffle. Words can't really adequately describe the level of appreciation that our staff members have for all of these efforts. And certainly with the Raffle and the foundation, both unions, whether it's the Command Officers Association or the Police Officers Association, they are all in. And the best demonstration, and the firefighters union as well, is when we opened our bank account, all of the unions were there with a check and made the first donations to the foundation. And there's a lot of excitement and a lot of appreciation.
And where can people get those tickets?
And the tickets are available at the Rec Center. So the Livonia Rec Center, you can stop in and buy tickets, Livonia City Hall. And the method of payment at the Rec Center can be credit card, cash, or check. At the Chamber office as well on 5 Mile and Farmington payment methods are the same. And then here at the Livonia Police Department at Livonia City Hall. And the payment options at those locations are limited to check and cash. Of course, we prefer a check when purchasing the tickets, but at the police and the City Hall, those are the limitations. So there's 4 locations. We hope to have more availability, but really the center of any questions that anyone might have as far as any background or any other information where tickets would be available would be through the Chamber office.
And again, for anyone interested in tickets, they're $50 each. Up to 500 tickets will be sold. If you have any additional questions about the raffle, call the Livonia Chamber office at 734-427-2122. We can answer your questions, and if you want to buy over the phone with the credit card, we could do it through that medium as well. So, gentlemen, I thank you for your time. Best of luck efforts with this raffle, and thank you for all you do in the community. That's all the time we have for Cityscape this time. We'll see you next time.